In Knoxville, Tennessee, the autumn air in late November 2016 was crisp and quiet. On the outside, everything looked peaceful. On the inside, evil was setting the table. Joel Guy Sr. and Lisa Guy were preparing for Thanksgiving weekend. Not just any Thanksgiving, but their last one in the house they'd called home for over 3 decades. Retirement was finally here. They had worked hard their whole lives, raised 3 daughters and 1 son, and now it was time to enjoy life. They had plans to move, sell the house, and leave behind years of routine and responsibility. What they didn't know, what no one could have imagined, was that the one person they loved most would turn their golden years into a nightmare soaked in blood. Joel Guy Jr., their only son, had come home. He was 28 years old, quiet, intelligent, awkward, and always distant. He wasn't close to anyone, not even his sisters. He had no job, no friends, no life outside the walls of the room his parents paid for. He had been studying to become a doctor, at least according to what he told people. But the truth was darker. He had dropped out. And now, with his parents retiring, the financial lifeline was about to be cut off. They were ready to stop supporting him. He wasn't ready to let go of the money. The day before Thanksgiving, Joel Jr. walked into a Walmart. He didn't buy turkey or stuffing. He bought knives, plastic tubs, acid, gloves, bleach, and a metal frame saw. On security footage, he looked like any ordinary shopper, but in his mind, he wasn't buying supplies for dinner. He was buying tools for slaughter. Back at the house, Lisa cooked. Joel Sr. laughed and made jokes with the family. The daughters were gone, living their own lives, and the parents believed, perhaps naively, that this might be the weekend their son finally turned a corner. He did, just not in the way they hoped. Joel Jr. had written down his entire plan in a notebook. Step by step, kill mother first. Wait for father to return. Kill him too. Remove bodies. Clean up. Collect life insurance. A $500,000 payout for murdering the 2 people who had given him everything. It was pure calculation, and it was already in motion. Thanksgiving came and went. Food was eaten. Smiles were shared. But by Sunday, Joel Sr. and Lisa Guy were no longer answering their phones. Not showing up for work. Not returning messages. A welfare check was requested. When police arrived, what they found inside was beyond comprehension. Joel Guy Jr. had stayed behind in the home after the murders. As if it was nothing. As if the blood on the walls was just part of the plan. And it was. This wasn't a crime of passion. This wasn't an accident. This was something far more chilling, the cold, methodical destruction of a family by their own blood. The boy they raised to succeed had come home to kill. The call came in on Monday morning. Lisa Guy didn't show up for work. That was unusual. She was always on time, always dependable. Her co-workers were concerned. Texts went unanswered. Calls rang out. Something wasn't right. So they called for a welfare check. When deputies from the Knox County Sheriff's Office arrived at the home on Golden View Lane, everything appeared quiet. The lights were off, no signs of forced entry, but something hung in the air, something foul. As they stepped onto the porch, a smell began to creep through the seams of the front door. A smell no human being ever forgets. The door was unlocked. Inside, it was a house of horrors. The first thing officers noticed was the heat. The thermostat had been turned up to over 90 degrees, artificially accelerating decomposition. It wasn't an accident. It was part of the plan. A strategy to destroy DNA evidence faster. And then came the blood, pooled on the floors, spattered across walls, drag marks from the hallway to the bathroom, bloody handprints on doors, signs of a struggle, but nothing could prepare them for what they found next. In the bathroom, inside large plastic tubs, they discovered the dismembered remains of Lisa Guy. Her body dissolved in chemicals. Her head was severed, placed in one of the containers. Her hands were removed, fingers gone, as if someone was trying to erase her identity. Nearby, Joel Sr.'s body parts were found scattered around the house. His limbs were cut off. His torso was missing. Later, it was discovered he had been stabbed over 40 times, his muscles nearly carved off the bone. The entire home had been turned into a slaughterhouse. In the kitchen, a pot was found boiling on the stove. Inside it, human remains. Flesh from Lisa's body, cooked, melted, broken down. It wasn't just a murder, it was surgical annihilation. On the second floor, officers discovered a spiral notebook. In it, Joel Guy Jr. had written everything, meticulously, chillingly. Page after page, he had detailed exactly how he would kill his parents, dismember them, dissolve the pieces in chemicals, and clean up the scene. It was titled like a business plan. Assets, $500,000. Eliminate bodies, move out quickly, get money, restart life. And there, in the hallway closet, they found the supplies: muriatic acid, hydrogen peroxide, bleach, a meat grinder, and even a saw still caked with flesh. Joel Jr. had left behind every tool, every piece of the puzzle. He wasn't hiding the crime, he was executing it. What made it worse was that after he murdered his parents, he didn't flee immediately. He stayed. He took a shower, ate food, slept in the same house where their bodies were dissolving. He was calm, cold, focused, no signs of panic, no remorse. What kind of person could look at their mother's severed head and feel nothing? Police had uncovered one of the most gruesome murder scenes in Tennessee history, but what they didn't know yet was that the killer had already left town, and he believed he had gotten away with it. Until the Journal exposed everything, and the nation realized this wasn't just a murder, it was the blueprint of a monster. On the second floor of the blood-soaked house, hidden in a plastic bag alongside some of the murder tools, investigators found something far more disturbing than even the mutilated bodies: a spiral notebook. At first glance, it looked ordinary, something you'd find in any college student's backpack. But inside were handwritten pages that would make even seasoned detectives freeze in their tracks. Each line was a calculated move. Each word was a glimpse into the mind of a cold, clinical killer. This wasn't a diary. It was a blueprint for premeditated slaughter. Joel Guy Jr. had titled the first page with what looked like a financial goal: assets, $500,000. That was the estimated value of his parents' life insurance policies. He wasn't just killing for hate. He was killing for money. He wrote with chilling clarity, "Get killing knives, quiet, multiple, get carving knives to make small pieces." It wasn't poetic. It wasn't emotional. It was logistical. Another line read, "Kill them. Then bring the bodies into the shower, remove the clothes, douse them with chemicals, cut off their heads." He mapped it all out like a checklist. Joel Jr. detailed how he would lure his father upstairs after killing his mother, how he would stab him, and how to dismember him quickly to prevent a fight. He reminded himself to turn up the thermostat, to speed decomposition and complicate time of death analysis. He even included steps to remove fingerprints and flush chunks down the toilet or garbage disposal. He was thinking ahead. Always. Not just about how to kill, but how to erase their existence. In one part of the notebook, he actually rehearsed a timeline. Mother upstairs, kill her first. Father comes home, kill him next. Pack up body parts, clean up, leave no trace, take insurance money, disappear. There were no crossed-out mistakes, no signs of second thoughts, no emotional language, just silence on the page. One officer later said, "This wasn't someone who snapped. This was someone who planned a massacre like it was a math exam." What shocked investigators most wasn't just what he wrote, it was how calm and methodical it all was. Joel even left reminders for himself. Don't forget to burn their personal items. Don't leave DNA. Don't think about it, just do it. But somewhere in between those lines, beneath the monstrous intentions, was something even more chilling, a sense of entitlement. Joel Guy Jr. believed that killing his parents was not only a solution, but a right, that he deserved their money, that they had served their purpose, that their lives had value only until they stopped paying his bills. This wasn't just a murderer. This was a man who treated his own flesh and blood like obstacles. And in his own handwriting, he documented every single step of his plan, as if no one would ever find it, as if he believed he was smarter than everyone else. But that journal, the very thing that made him feel invincible, would soon become the key to locking him away forever, because no matter how well he planned the murders, he couldn't plan for what came next. When Joel Guy Jr. entered the courtroom, he didn't look like a killer. No emotion, no tears, no hint of remorse. Just a blank stare, like a man who had already left reality behind. It had been nearly 4 years since Thanksgiving 2016. The weekend he turned his family home into a slaughterhouse. Now, in 2020, he would finally face the consequences. The prosecution wasted no time. They laid out the evidence with surgical precision, starting with the crime scene photographs. Photos so graphic, so disturbing, that people in the gallery had to look away. Some wept, others left the room. Then came the journal, the notebook Joel had written, the one where he outlined everything, from killing to cleanup to cashing in on insurance, was presented to the jury. Page by page, word by word, and every line sounded like a confession written in real time. But Joel sat motionless, as if it was someone else's handwriting, as if the photos of dismembered bodies had nothing to do with him. His face didn't flinch when the forensics expert explained how his mother's limbs were removed, or how his father was stabbed so many times, his muscles were nearly separated from the bone. But it wasn't just evidence that chilled the room, it was the absence of humanity. The defense tried to argue mental instability, that Joel had been isolated for years, that he was under pressure, that something broke inside him. But no mental illness could explain the level of planning, the precision, the strategy, the cold greed behind every step. The most emotional moment came when the victims' family members testified, Joel's own sisters, trembling as they described their parents' kindness, their mother's laugh, their father's hard work, how their last texts went unanswered, how they learned that their brother, the quiet one, had butchered their entire world. And then, in a stunning twist, Joel Guy Jr. spoke. He didn't apologize, he didn't cry, he simply said he didn't want to live anymore. "Give me the death penalty." The words echoed through the courtroom. People weren't sure whether it was guilt or arrogance. Was it a cry for mercy or just another act of control? Had he finally realized what he'd done? Or was this his final power move, to choose death on his own terms? The jury deliberated. After everything they'd seen, the photos, the journal, the autopsy reports, they sentenced him to life in prison, without the possibility of parole. He would not be executed. He would not be granted the death he begged for. He would live, every day of the rest of his life, locked away, forced to remember the family he destroyed. And the courtroom emptied, slowly, leaving behind only echoes, and the face of a son who thought murder would set him free. But in the end, it only caged him forever. The house on Golden View Lane no longer smells like home. It smells like memory, like grief, like something that can never be cleaned. After Joel Guy Jr. murdered his parents and tried to dissolve their bodies in acid, the family home became a symbol of something deeper than horror. It became a monument to betrayal, and for those left behind, there were no answers, only ruins. Lisa and Joel Sr.'s 3 daughters, the same sisters who once laughed beside Joel Jr. at birthday parties, shared holiday dinners, and trusted him as their brother, had to face the unthinkable truth. The boy they grew up with had slaughtered their parents. He didn't just kill them, he erased them. There was no open casket, no final viewing, no goodbye. Their mother, a sweet and caring woman who had worked in the same office for years, was reduced to parts in plastic tubs. Their father, a man who worked hard in construction his whole life, was hacked to pieces by the son he had raised. And as they sat in court during the trial, listening to the graphic details of what had been done to their parents, they were forced to grieve not just two deaths, but the death of the family itself. Neighbors couldn't believe it. Co-workers broke down in tears during interviews. One family friend said, "Lisa loved her children more than anything. She would have done anything for them, and he knew that. He used that love to destroy her." The community in Knoxville rallied around the surviving daughters, offering support and prayers. But no words could dull the pain of knowing your brother is a murderer. And your parents suffered in ways no human should. Even seasoned detectives admitted this was one of the worst cases they'd ever seen. The forensic team had to undergo counseling. One officer said, "I've seen violent crime scenes, but this was pure evil. And the fact that he was so calm about it, that's what keeps me up at night." For months after the murders, the home sat vacant, too dark, too stained to be reclaimed. Inside, the drywall had to be torn out, the flooring removed, but the scars couldn't be erased. Not really, because what happened inside that house wasn't just a double homicide. It was the total collapse of a family. A mother and father gone in the most brutal way imaginable. 3 daughters left to piece together a life from ashes. A son, now a prisoner, forever haunted by what he did, or perhaps not haunted at all. There were no winners, no sense of justice that could undo the horror. Just pain, silence, and an empty house that once held love. Now it holds only echoes, and the unshakable truth. Sometimes the worst monsters are the ones we raise ourselves. Years have passed since the world learned the name Joel Guy Jr., but the horror he left behind hasn't faded. Because this wasn't just a double homicide. It was a story that pierced deep into the American psyche, a story about how evil can live behind closed doors, in family photos, at the dinner table. People still talk about it. True crime forums dissect it. Documentaries replay it. And every time someone hears the details, the notebook, the dismemberment, the life insurance motive, they react the same way. How could a son do this? How could someone raised by loving parents, in a quiet home, surrounded by support, choose to destroy everything? What made this case different wasn't just the brutality. It was the betrayal. It was the fact that Lisa and Joel Sr. had given their son everything: shelter, education, unconditional love, and he paid them back with slaughter. He didn't snap. He didn't lose control. He planned. He prepared. He wrote it all down. He made sure they couldn't scream, made sure no one would hear. He turned a family home into a lab of dissection, then walked away like nothing happened. Even now, investigators struggle to explain what they saw. One detective, years later, said, "I've worked homicides my entire career, but I've never seen anything so calculated. It wasn't just cruel, it was surgical." Experts and psychologists have weighed in. Some call it narcissistic rage. Some say it was entitlement taken to the extreme. Others believe it was something colder, something more primal. A man who saw his own parents as obstacles, not people. But no theory can erase what happened. And the legacy left behind is stained with fear. In Knoxville, that house has become a warning, a symbol of hidden darkness. It sits quietly in a neighborhood where people still remember the sirens, the cameras, the silence that followed. For the Guy daughters, life will never be the same. Their family no longer exists. Thanksgiving is no longer a holiday. It's a reminder. Every year, when the leaves change and the air cools, they are forced to relive the weekend their world was destroyed. And Joel Guy Jr., he sits in a prison cell. Life without parole, no escape, no death penalty, just decades of stillness. He asked to die. The jury said no. Now every day he wakes up behind bars, surrounded by concrete, haunted not by conscience, but by consequence. Some say he's forgotten. but that's not true. He's remembered because his crime lives on as a symbol of everything that can go wrong when love turns into expectation, and expectation turns into hate. And the world is still left asking, if your own child could do this, who can you ever truly trust? Because Joel Guy Jr. didn't just kill his parents, he shattered the illusion that family means safety. And that's what still keeps people awake at night.